I, 21F, am posting about my narcissist mom, 44F, who is now in a relationship with my ex-husband, 20M. My mother has always been a narcissist. This wasn't something that just came to be overnight. For as long as I can remember, my mom was selfish and toxic. She always made it abundantly clear that I wasn't good enough when it came to the sports I played, the way I dressed, and my body weight. Until I removed myself from her, I thought this was her way of showing she cared and loved me. When I was about 16 years old, I met my now ex-husband. He was a year younger than me but in my same grade. We started as friends, but of course we later on became more. My mom hated him. She gave me hell for dating him and really didn't want me anywhere near him. Unfortunately for me, he too was a narcissist, which looking back now I guess makes a lot of sense. He came from a rough background. Dad was imprisoned, mom hadn't been his legal guardian for years due to drugs. I fell for the poor stray kid act and begged my parents to let him stay with us since he claimed to have nothing. My dad wasn't really for it, but my mom pleaded his case and he was allowed to stay. For a while it was okay, it was nice, but then when he would go out with friends I would notice how angry my mom would get. She would come to me and say things like, "How can you let him walk all over you? He's probably cheating on you right now." I was so frustrated and confused as to why she felt the need to insert herself into my relationship, and when I would confront her about it she would assure me that it was just her being a mother and having my best interest in mind, although to be honest, it really just felt like she was some jealous girlfriend. At this point my ex hated my mom. He hated how obsessed she was with him. He called her crazy. He said awful things about her. I felt bad and would tell him what she told me. "She's my mom and she has my best interest at heart." Boy, was I naive. Fast forward after senior year, things hadn't gotten better. I just got used to it, I guess. I'd been with him for about 3 years at this point and my family was pressuring me to marry him because they didn't like that I was living with him out of wedlock. My mom denies it now, but she pushed me the most. I always knew I never wanted to get married, but I did it anyways. I married him and all was well. Him and my mom were finally friends and I thought this was a good thing. Now I wouldn't have to be caught in the middle of their constant bickering. Looking back now, all the signs were there. I was just blinded by love. Little by little things began to change. My ex would tell me to invite my mom to everything we did, and like an idiot I did it. She made me feel bad saying she was lonely because her and my dad, 49M, were having issues. Yet another red flag. This went on and got to the point where I was feeling like the third wheel in my own relationship, and my parents' relationship just kept getting worse and worse. Something just didn't feel right, but when I would bring it up to my mom she would call me crazy and say she was hurt that I could even suggest there was something fishy going on. I got to the point where I just kept it all in, and observed. Eventually my dad came to me and said he felt that my mom was being unfaithful. He told me it wasn't the first time she had cheated on him and that all the same red flags were staring to pop up again. I felt a pit in my stomach because I was experiencing the same things with my now ex. I knew it wasn't right that 8 months into my marriage my ex didn't want anything to do with me. I knew that the fact that at the age of 44 my mother getting birth control when her and my dad were in the middle of a divorce wasn't right, but I felt this crippling fear to speak up and confront them, so this went on for months. I let them treat me like the dumb ignorant wife while they played house. I watched my dad slowly lose his light as my mother convinced everyone he was crazy for thinking she was in a relationship with her son-in-law. To be totally honest, although I knew the truth, I was so desperate and wanted to be wrong I let her convince me that she would never do that and my dad and I were awful to even suggest such things. She even urged my sister and I to cut contact with my dad because he was obsessed with her and spreading lies. I don't know how I let her do this when deep down I knew all along what was going on, but she insisted it wasn't true. Eventually I told my ex I no longer wanted to be married because I didn't love him anymore and I knew he didn't love me. He told me he did love me, but we were in different places in our lives. To paraphrase, a lot of bullshit to cover the truth. Although we were separated, my mom insisted that he still stay in our home because he had nobody other than us. Yet she had no problem kicking my dad out and leaving him basically homeless. Fast forward a bit, at this point my sister, 16F, and dad had moved out and my ex was sleeping on the couch in the living room, and one night I went out of my room to get water and found my mom in the living room. The look on her face looked as if I had just stepped on a puppy. She looked caught. I asked her why she was up in the middle of the night in the living room and she said she got thirsty and heard me coming out of my room so she hid to scare me. I just stared in disbelief at the stupidly obvious lie she had just told. The best part is that my ex was on the couch, asleep, as if he couldn't hear us right there. Not even 2 nights later I got up again only to find my ex running in the hallway from the direction of my mom's room. I asked him what he was doing and as if I'm an idiot he said, using the bathroom, another very obvious lie. I know at this point you are wondering why I am even still in this situation. Why didn't I just leave? Well, I guess the truth is, I was scared to be right, because if I was right that meant I was losing my mom and the person I thought I could trust for the rest of my life. Eventually I did leave. I did confront my mom and my ex, and they both denied it. My grandmother even confronted my mom and asked her how she could do this to her own daughter, to which my mom replied, "He's like a son to me, he has nobody, I can't just kick him out." Yet she didn't bat an eye when I moved out on my own with nothing to my name. I left with no resolve for months. I got divorced and was civil with my ex. I had moved out, yet he was still living alone with my mother, claiming it was just until he got on his feet. I guess my breaking point was when my grandmother died. When she was still here, I never felt the loss of a mother because she was my mom. She was what love was supposed to look like, real unconditional love. She never let me feel the pain of my mother's betrayal, but unexpectedly COVID took her from me and my sister. My mother came around while she was in the hospital but left the moment her mom passed. I asked her if she would be at the memorial and she said, "It wouldn't help me grieve to be there." Little did we know that instead of being at her mom's memorial, she was playing boyfriend and girlfriend with my ex at a casino. The next time I saw my mother, I would find out the truth. And I did. A few weeks ago I went face to face with my mom and told her to tell me the truth, and to my surprise she did. She confessed to me that her and my ex are now in a relationship. She wouldn't tell me when it began. She wouldn't even acknowledge that she lied to her mother weeks before her death. I asked her how she could do such an awful thing to her firstborn daughter, her baby girl, how she could hold me and tell me, "I'm still your mother, I love you." And she told me, she was lonely, and she's human. The worst part of this whole story is that after her admitting it all to me, I gave her another chance. I told her to pick me and that we could heal together if she just left him and chose me, and she said no. So that's the end of an ordeal that went on for even longer than I even realized. A narcissist can really convince you that somehow all the awful things they do to you are somehow your fault, because even after everything she put me through, I was the bad guy. I was the one who left her alone. I was the one who drove her to make this decision. And because of the trauma she instilled in me, I have to fight daily to see things through a different light and realize I'm not what she made me, and I do deserve to be loved.